Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode, episode 11 of Noblesse. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, you have Regis, Rai, and Frankenstein on their way to Ludonia, which I kind of spoiled it last episode, but I knew, Tao, Takio and M21 were on island because I even talked about the fact is I know they battle on the island, but I was like, they're not there. I was like, did they come later? I was like, I guess they did, and I didn't realize oh yeah, they snuck aboard the plane, which I loved it. I mean, they didn't know that Rai, Frankenstein, and Regis were going to jump. So granted, it's yeah, I didn't think we were going to survive the plane crash, but it's did they bail out at right before the plane crash, or did the plane crash but luckily they just happened to survive the plane crash? I'm curious. But I also love the area they go to first was ended up being Rai's mansion, because it was interesting. It's oh, this place is forbidden, and then Frankenstein's wait, the Lord forbade it? It's oh, interesting. And I was the moment he was saying that, I was it's Rai's place, isn't it? Yeah, and because obviously, once again, it's the thing of how much Regis knows. It's that, I mean, he's still kind of a fledgling. Once again, he's only 199. There's so much he doesn't know. But it's kind of interesting that that place would be regarded as a sealed off place. Now, I don't know whether the way the conversation is that way, and then you add in what they end up finding there, because it turns out that their lord, the previous lord, his soul weapon, Ragnarok, perfect name, is there. So it's I guess that's why he forbade it. I mean, to be fair, most lords stayed away from Rai's place anyway, but that's what I'm curious, was that something the daughter put into place, or was it something the father put in place, So that's what I'm curious about, because did she have people go away because she doesn't want his place represented as his grand place? Because once again, no one else refers to Rai the way he's kind of supposed to be revered as, the Noblesse, which we'll get to in a second. So that's why I'm wondering, are the others too young to know that, or did they do? But first and foremost, he's branded a traitor, so it doesn't matter what he is. To be fair, even before all that went down, he already garnished a lot of hate amongst the nobles just because he chose Frankenstein. So there was already that element to it. But Regis trying to mask himself as he defeats the knights that are on the try and keep Rai and Frankenstein off their radar. But luckily, the rest of RK4, and I love that, is 4, and there's 3, and me, Takio's 2, and Tao's I'm 1, and you number 3, and I'm surprised Regis didn't make a point of why am I number 3? Out of any of you guys, I should be number 1. Especially because but I guess it also helps because notice he is a higher number than M21, so I'm sure he didn't say anything, but he probably appreciates that. It's at the very least I'm higher than him, and I'm sure that'd be a whole thing. But they couldn't leave things be, because for them it's right, we got paid for the month, and this is our job. Our job is kind of to look out for you, so it's right, we might as well do. I mean, their job is mainly looking after the school, but I think that also includes Rai, because he is a student at the school, and it also includes Frankenstein as the director of the school. So it's it falls under their purview. But it's right, you've got to tell us the truth of who you really are. It's right, because it's this is all happening. Tell is in trouble, him and Sarah, because they try to protect me, and it's because I'm accused of killing the previous lord, and it's well, did you? And Frankenstein knows the truth, but Rai doesn't really say much, and they're M21, it's well, regardless, we'll fight by your side. He's you protect me, even if I'm a criminal. And it's yeah. And I think for them, it's well, we're not really much of in a position to kind of judge either, because they've all done stuff and been a part of stuff they're not proud of. Everything they did with the Union, they're not proud of. So it's but the fact is, they, regardless of the situation, they know Rai, and it's we might not know all the details, we've learned a little bit about you now, but it's we know what kind of person you are, and you're the type of person we're willing to fight for, because Frankenstein clarifies something he brought up to M21 earlier in the series, and I kind of already spoiled it. I didn't go into specifics, but I've covered it 70% without going over the last 30%. But we finally learned what the title of the show and Rai's position as the Noblesse, what it really means. Noblesse isn't like, oh, like that's what all they are. Like, no, they're nobles. He's the noblesse. Now, what I don't remember is like, and I don't know if this is something that's ever covered, whether or not there was a noblesse before him or whether there would be one after him. Like, because I think noblesse is kind of like a more recent equivalent would be like the Scarlet Witch in the MCU. It's not. It's meant to be like, no, well, even that's still ambiguous of whether it's like, oh, is there one in out of 10,000 people that are born that are Scarlet Witch, or is it a thing of like there can only be one Scarlet Witch? Is it a title for one being, or is it a title from like multiple beings could have it? I'd assume only one being could have it, and I think the same thing applies in this. So I think even if Rai dies or whatever, like he was and always will be the Noblesse because he's a powerful being. I think like his very existence represents that, because we actually don't know how old Rai is. So he's probably been around forever, always holding the title of Noblesse, playing his particular role as the Noblesse and what that means in the ecosystem of nobles and Ludonia. Because obviously in the past, you know, you have the Lord saying like, oh yeah, like, you know, you've changed a lot. You must be like Frankenstein being part of your family. He's like, he's not really family. He's like, what? You've been living together for like a decade. How could he not be family? You know? And I forgot what it was that he had asked Rai, right? Because he was saying like, right, you don't have to, even though everything says like the Noblesse has to like live a life of solitude, you don't have to adhere to that. You know, he's like, the fact is, welcoming Frankenstein in the way you are, like, the fact is you have changed, and that, you know, I think Frankenstein being a part of your life and everything will only be the first step. Because at the end of the day, the Lord wants, you know, Rai to be happy. And even asking, like, you know, have you ever thought about becoming the Lord? Which coincides a little bit with, like, Kriya, her whole situation of, like, her disdain for him. Because there's a little jealousy there, because it's like, no matter what she did, it was never good enough to fully get her father's attention. Because he would rather spend so much time talking to Rai. Because even later on in that, like, moment, that flashback of, like, he's like, oh, like, I'm spending my precious time with you. And it's like, even Rai's like, why aren't you spending that time with your precious daughter then? But it's the whole thing of, like, I think it's kind of that catch-22 of he kind of didn't give her so much attention because he knew that she was so self-sufficient that it's like, right, she's such a hard worker, she'll figure everything out on her own. I think there's an element of that. Plus, so that makes him feel like I don't have to worry about her. But on that, it's a double-edged sword because of that, she felt like nothing she ever did could get her father's attention, especially because she spent her entire life trying to be like her father, being like, oh, I'm going to be the next Lord. Okay, so I'm going to know everything. I'm going to learn how to do everything. All that's expected is me as a Lord, because that's what to be expected of me because I'm his daughter. But I think it's also the element of, like, she wanted to get her father's attention, and him offering Rai, like, hey, would you take the position of a Lord? And it's like, right, I dedicate my entire life to that, and you give it to this guy instead of me, regardless of who he is, regardless of his circumstances. Like, the fact is, you know, you see him, but you refuse to see me. So there's an element of that resentment that's there. And that's what kind of makes her lash out the way she does, even to the point, like, she's asking Sarah, or like, okay, so tell me about this person you met. It's like, well, where's Getchutol? And it's like, well, he's locked up for lying to me, so are you going to tell me the truth? And it's like, she doesn't, and she uses her power to kind of start affecting Sarah's heart, whether it's just putting pressure on it, which even Rael's kind of like, oh wait, no, there was, I don't know if this is the person you're looking for, but there was like Regis, and then there was a guy, a blonde haired dude that was human. But hearing that, she knew exactly who it was. Like, everyone that's old enough in that room would know Frankenstein, or at least have some idea. She might not know it's Frankenstein, but it's like, right, hearing the description, she figured it was a servant of it. So I'm assuming she knows about Frankenstein. She was around and kicking by then, so. But even the other lords are like, my lord, like, stop. I mean, the other clan leaders are like, my lord, stop doing that. Like, her heart can't take too much. And so for her, it's like, to the point later on, now that she knows, it's like, right, I'm going to put Getchito, like, up for eternal sleep. And it's like, wait, what? Because as we know, that's their version of death. And it's like, we can't do that. Like, he's practically raised all of the clan leaders here. I mean, even you, he was one of the people you trusted most in the world, right? And that kind of got her, it's like, fine, I'll give him a choice. And she confronts him, and it's like, right, so tell me the truth. Was it Rai that you ran into? if you tell me the truth, I might spare you. But at the end of the day, she turned it into an ultimatum. Choose him or me, your lord. And he goes, fine, the person I met was Rai. She's like, okay, I'll forgive you for telling the truth. But he's like, my lord, like, I broke the law. Like, I didn't tell the truth because it's because of fear of death. Like, the fact is, I am a criminal, and as the Lord, you should punish me. And that pisses her off because it's just like, we're only in this circumstance because of him. It's just kind of like, it just makes her like hate him more. It's like, this is all your fault. And that hate is running deeper and deeper in her, and just to the point, it's like, right, he's going to be up for eternal sleep. But upon hearing that, Sarah she gets ready for action. She breaks out of her cell because she would just, whatever punishment, it's like, right, I'll accept it. But I don't know if it was necessarily like she was going to wait until she found out about Get Your Tails, because like she found out he was locked up. So I don't know if, like, I doubt it was a thing of like, oh, I'm gonna get myself in prison just so I can be near. I think it's like the moment she heard like, wait, he's being threatened, it's like, no. And that's what makes her, I think that's what sparked into action. She was just going to accept things as they are until she found out like, wait, he's going to be sentenced to death. And it's like, I refuse. So once again, she's turning, like, once again, I think she's just going completely overboard. And like I said, I think a lot of like her duties as the Lord, because she had talked about like trusting people is so foolish, because it's like, right, my father trusted Rai, and like he ended up being this massive traitor. So that's kind of what, because everyone's kind of like, right, like this whole situation isn't sitting well with them. And it's like, yeah, they got their orders, but it's still like what was it to do, like Kasara, him and Rajak are talking about everything, and it's like, right, it's like, well, all we do is serve our Lord. But for him, it's like, I don't know, man, like, what's happened? Sarah getting locked up, locking up Gejitol as well, like, locking up clan leaders? Like, come on, like, So, at the same time this is all happening, like, Rai had made his decision. It's like, right, I'm going to head directly to the sanctuary, because he plans on seeing Roxkria, because it's kind of, time to settle things. And, along with that, like, the revelations of a lot of stuff, I'm sure. But a lot of stuff is going to be going down in the next 2 episodes. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.